So that was the study that he had created. And along the way, KCCA-FC had already started in 1963, also as a team for the council, KCC. So there was a debate. We have teams with UEB, we have WACS, we have Kampala Bus Service, a team for bus workers. Of course, the bus service was so big. Like if you grew up around the 90s, you remember there was UTC, Uganda Transport Company. So the fleet of buses, recently Pioneer buses, they could easily create a team because they had a good workforce and all that. So, but they wanted clubs that can live to the age, like the Zamaleks, the Al Ahlis and all that, and the foreign clubs, of course. So that study is the one that created the league in 68. And then in 68, when we went for the AFCON, still we didn't win a game. So from that study, that is when now they chose to have now another federation president. And that was Henry Baramazerwanga. Having been part of the study, they wanted him to effect everything they had studied. And within the way, one of the things that he advocated for was to bring a foreign coach to teach us, and they chose Germany. That is where they brought in Bukad Pape between 69 and 71 to be part. And in Bukad Pape's project, he had to train as many former players or active players as possible, so that after his contract, we have a plethora of coaches. That is where now David Oti comes in, from a player to a coach, Pole Ouma, the likes of John Baptist Semanove, the likes of Charles Omiji. All those names will later augur when you study teams and the composition of clubs. Charles Omiji at Kofi, then Baramazerwanga at Kofi, and then later Sports Club Villa. So they trained them in administration, because then for them they knew how to manage a side, not just coaching a side. That is where Era Mugisa comes in. We talked about him, the father of my friend Alan de Cantancaras. He was also a sports tutor at Makerere. So they started doing the expansive football project. So that is when the league started in 1968. And also that league, the reforms then brought a hula balu. Because when they chose the league, they had to select 8 sides
out of all the teams.
And the selection was based on a judgment of who will sustain what we want to build, not specifically who was stronger. So many teams, the Budonians and all that, were alienated because their creation would not sustain the league. So teams like Express started in the league. Of course, because
so the federation was the judge of who they thought.
The Ame side, then they said we must have a team like a town Mbare, we must have Mbarara, we must have Lira, so that we make football broad-based. Because they knew if you chose Lira, the players who were playing in the northern would easily make the Lira team. If you chose Mbare, the players who were playing in the eastern would easily form just that. So then they started, and then they started teaching them to become football clubs. Because it is from a team that you become a club. You cannot start a club without a team. It is the team that comes first. So that is how we came to have the league. And of course, Prisons won the first 2 in 68 and 69. And then Kofi won the next in 1970 with a coach player, David Oti. So the fruits of Pape had started to come.
To show,
of course, KCCA was in the lower league. They hadn't been selected when the league had started, and they got promoted in 1974 into the league. Of course, with the strength of another good administrator, Jaberi Vidani Sali, who came and became part of the KCCA team. He was the town clerk of the council, very avid football fan, and brought the administration the exact administration the British were preaching. I think he's the first administrator who created professional players. We are talking Express was a good club, but they didn't have professional players. Then Jaberi created professional players. Players like Tom Luanga, Philip Omondi, Jimmy Chirunda. When he picked them, Moses Nsereko, he gave them houses in Naguru. You know, you are a player at this age and you go into an estate in Naguru with someone helping you doing the chores and all that, and then maybe a family member you have chosen to be part.
Express did not have that.
They did not have that. So that is where now the beef starts.
That is also another.
Express is priding themselves in this, and then KCC creates this. And with Naguru, the whole community started supporting KCCA. That is why the broad side of Nakawa and all that grew because of KCCA and the support of that. And the players there, the generation that was created in Naguru, later teams like Naguru, AVC, and Nakawa and all that grew because of the pomp that KCC is. And you cannot take KCC away from Lugogo and the areas around and expect support. Even the ancestral, if you believe in superstitions, the ancestral heirs are also there. So that is how it grew. And amongst those included now, Peter Oke was a player for Prisons when the league was starting. He also was put on the project. Same with Pare Okech. They also went, they were taking them in turns to Germany to study for a year and come back. It was a clandestine thing. So by the time we reached 78, the epitome, we had staunch administrators and players that had been created in a professional setting. That is why it was easy for Uganda now to go in 74, 76, and 78. By qualification now, not invitation. The team used to qualify, and the scalp of the teams would beat the likes of Algeria, every African team, because again the qualifiers were like they are now. So Uganda dominated then until the fate of 1979.
I want to ask, I mean, from when you get to that point at up to 1978, do you? Of course, maybe it could be far-fetched. You say that you are not allowed to be at the independence.
No, independence was 62.
62, exactly. Yes. But do you think independence at 1962 helped, Ugandan football as well to be able to progress the way it did?
Yeah, it did, because first of all, when the Union Jack was lowered, if you follow history, Uganda was playing as a British colony. Even the flag that represents the history then was the British flag. We started having our own black, yellow, red with the crested crane in 62. So everything you had to do, you were on your own. The funding that FIFA was giving now was coming straight to the federation. By then, you would never know where it was going. So the accountability thing started in 62. And then the enrollment of the federation to now have presidents started then. And with the presidents comes constitutions and statutes. Before then, there were no statutes. That's why I was saying the king would choose the team he wants to play with for the cranes. Yeah, the other commoners never allowed, probably if they had beef or anything, because politics was available then. There was UPC, there was DP, there was Kabaka Yeka and all that. So someone, for a certain reason, would not want. But with the coming of now the rules and the statutes, it was not easy to shy away from the federation and the activities. And then the government knew that it was an automatic thing. This thing of government support just died when federation started now rubbing shoulders with the government, and then insistence by FIFA that if interference is so much, we ban the country. But it had started long ago. During independence, government started supporting. That is why all the sports then were flourishing, because there was money. Money disappeared around the 80s. Of course, because after the elections in 1980, everything went haywire. That is what we could say for those that have that
Tendo, history. I beg to come in because we have sat here for close to an hour and I've talked about half of the information that you have in your head. I mean, whenever I sit with Tendo, I feel very less confident of myself because
Why?
of how much he knows, and I'm like,
You know
how
the-
much?
You know how I became the way I am?
And I'm thinking, how much don't I know? Because, but then for the rest of the minutes of this particular show, you've talked about a lot to do with administration.
Yeah.
I think if I'm to remember very well, you've talked about players like Adi Chitonsa. Some of those players that could have stuck around from, the inauguration of football up to where we are now, in the rest of the minutes that we have. Which are some of the talents that could have stood around for you, out for you?
Well, of course, I talked about Ali Chitonsa. Definitely, you cannot water down the fact that he was the first player from Uganda that was bought. And the stats show it. Even before the league started, he was the greatest goal scorer. He scored 38 goals in 11 games. What a tally. That is the league. But then all those records were watered down after the 1968 league. Because there is a game where actually Express beat a team called Chitegombwa 19 goals to 0. So all those records died with the reforms that created the league. So they started writing records in 68. Even in 68, he scored 36 goals. But then the league in 68 and 69 was played in 68 and 68-69 because there was a debate. They wanted to do it the European way, half season and half. And all those records died just the same way. If you follow a record of one of the greatest African strikers, Godfrey Chitalu, he scored 101 goals in one season. And somewhere Messi's record of 91 is above him. Because the record keeping ignores that. So Ali Chitonsa is one of them. But then there is also Ibrahim Dafara, one of the greatest defenders ever.
Express also.
Yeah, Express. He was the captain. He led them to the league. The league they won in 74 and 75. He is the first player to pass trials in Europe.
Okay.
I don't know how many people have said they did and actually passed trials in Manchester United. He went as an apprentice. He was working with the Uganda Television then, which is UBC now. So he went to do an apprentice in BBC. And being a footballer, Jole Joe asked that he gets to play during his time so that he stays fit. That is how astute Jole Joe was. So he trains with Manchester United and actually is asked to do trials. Then he passes. And then they start discussing with Jole Joe, and Jole Joe was like, no, I have to retain my player. And that is where now Express is known for not wanting to release players. You remember even in 95, Philip Obwinyi and Fred Tamale also had passed trials in Portsmouth. And
Express has that history.
Okay. So now, those are two. Then you'll add Jimmy Chirunda for me. Tom Luanga, that backline, led Uganda for so many years. And then Philip Omondi.
Where does Ali Sekatawa come in?
Isa Sekatawa came around in 1980. 79, 80, 81, 82. He's also a man.
If you'd have it, top five.
Top
in
five.
Order.
Well, I would say that the greatest is Philip Omondi. Based on his talent and the achievement as top scorer in the AFCON in 1978. But then, of late, Onyango has sneaked into my number 2 position. Dennis Onyango.
Really?
Yeah, his achievements are amazing. You cannot beat them. If you are talking football, we talk about
Talent.
we talk about longevity. I think you can know what he has done. You talk about accolades won.
Yeah.
As an individual and for the teams, you cannot beat the PSL awards he has won,
That's true.
the titles. You cannot beat the qualifications for AFCON that he has taken us to. Because when we are talking the qualifications for the AFCON in the 70s, you would see Paul Sally having the 78 mantle, but then there was Joseph Masajaga in 76, and then before that, you get it. But this one has been consistent all
Let's
through.
get your number 3.
Number 3 for me is Jimmy Chirunda.
Okay.
And then number 4 is Majid Musisi. The greatest striker ever. The first now European best professional in 1992, and the most expensive Ugandan ever. $1.2 million. Yeah, $1.2 million
That's a lot of
when
money.
he was bought.
Yeah.
And that was just one transfer, but before that he had been taken to Stade Rennes for 180,000.
That's a lot of money.
And that is money that brought so much development in Sports Club Villa, including the estates in Namasuba and all that, those that follow Sports Club Villa. And $1 million transfer. So in total, he was transferred for like 2.8 million in his career.
That's
just
a lot of money.
in Europe only.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about even when he came back, he was still the most expensive player because he was being paid 500,000 a week when he came back in '99 at Sports Club Villa.
That's a lot of money by that time.
Yes, a week.
That's a lot of money by that
By
time.
then in '99.
Let's have his number 5.
Okay.
Number 5.
just
Number
mention
5
number
is
5.
Ibra Sekaja.
Brasekaja. Okay, so we'll have to get tell Nikita Musoke to come back and try to explain as well Ibra Sekaja. But there's a lot we've been able to learn today from Tendo, and I have to appreciate him. Something that we're constrained by time, and we're going to have to bring the show to a close. But there's a lot that we can learn about how far football has come at 63 years of independence, and of course where we could be headed in the future. Now we're going to have to put a close to the conversation right there. But before we go off, we did have the teaser that was posed for you today. The Uganda Cranes